بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
Creates impacts. A founder creates impacts in terms of results. It doesn't matter that the founder was there in the office from 6 a.m. in the morning till 4 a.m. in the night, right, or late, early morning next day. Whereas an employee would say that I've got to tick my tasks. I had to do 10 tasks, done. That's not going to work, right? It's all about saying what are the tasks that I had worked on made the results, right? So there have been days when I was the first person to open the office and I was the last person to even exit the building as well. Wondering what I'm doing.
We move on. The next event, the next session will be felicitated by Mr. Syed Suqualain Ahmed. He is an accomplished entrepreneur. On the schedule there you will see Mr. Yazdani. However, he was not able to make it for a reason that there was a medical emergency at his home. His mother is also ill and also his wife is ill. That's why he couldn't make it. So we pray to his family that they recover at the earliest. La basa tahuran inshallah. So on a very short notice, Syed Suqualain Ahmed was an entrepreneur himself. We were quite lucky enough to have him in a very short time. He accepted an invite. Jazakallah khair. He's an accomplished entrepreneur, a global business leader, and a distinguished alumnus of the Indian Institute of Management, Bengaluru. With over 2 decades of experience in entrepreneurship and leadership roles across the IT and ITES sectors, he has worked extensively with Fortune 500 companies, driving innovation, scalability, and sustainable business growth. He's a serial entrepreneur. Syed has founded and successfully led multiple ventures, mentoring several IT companies from inception to growth and strategic exit. Point to be noted there. His current venture, Syed Ventures Incorporation, is driven by a powerful vision to uplift underprivileged communities through sustainable technology-driven initiatives and inclusive entrepreneurship. There are few venture portfolios in the Syed background. He has the SYGnext.com, an IT staffing and services company. He has Wishdin.com, a will management company. Freshersoffer.com, building a launchpad for freshers to build their careers. Coconin.com, a new age social networking platform. Shamaworld.in, a single crowdfunding platform for all. His global exposure includes establishing global capability centers, that is GCCs, in Dalian, that is China, and Malaysia, and leading IT delivery operations in Saudi Arabia, contributing to the expansion of technology capabilities across emerging markets. As a trainer, he has delivered numerous sessions and leadership programs in the USA, the Netherlands, Singapore, and Japan, sharing insights on entrepreneurship, leadership, digital transformation, and the future of work. With this kind of profile and the person who's Mr. Syed, who accepted our invite on a very short notice, I welcome him. I thank him as well for being a part of this event. To his session, he will enlighten us and he will take us forward with the second session here. Mr. Syed, it's all yours. The topic for his session will be the founder's mindset. So here we will try to understand what exactly is the mindset that you need to carry. Is it the money that is required? Is it the skill that is required? Is it the passion that is required? Or it does not require anything? Or does it require all? Considering all these factors, he will understand, he will get back to you from the founder's mindset perspective. What is the mindset that you need to carry as a person to be a successful entrepreneur?
Be impacting your business and how you will be able to overcome it. So the silver lining that we found out over there is, one is that we had to identify saying how long is this lockdown going to happen. So we founders got in, we pulled up a chart saying, okay, each of us list our names in and then say how long is this lockdown going to happen. And if that happens, so we had a lot of investments, right? So we had to pay for rents even though we did not have employees who were working or using the office and multiple such aspects. So we did that and then each of us predicted, and I had predicted the highest amount. That was, I think it was 9 months that I had predicted in that chart. And there were a few in the 6 months and a few in the 3 month slot. And then it went on. It went on for almost over a year, and I too wasn't perfectly right, but I was close there. So that was one aspect on how you as a founder would look at opportunities, challenges, and see what are the opportunities there and reduce your costing. So we were able to successfully reduce the cost there. And the next problem with challenge that came up with COVID is we had customers and we had employees who were going to offices. And that all of a sudden went for a standstill. So customers said that we don't want your employees to be coming to our offices. So when that happened, we lost almost 30 to 40% of our business. And when that happened, all of us were sitting in a boardroom and we were talking about, we had the leadership team as well in, and then we were talking about saying we're losing a lot of business, a lot of clients walking out. This situation is creating a lot of uncertainty. And I said, almost everyone in the room was losing hope. And I was there, right there, and saying, you know what, there's a silver lining to it. What is that? So can you tell me what was the silver lining in IT during COVID times? Yeah, you guys, when you look forward, when you look back, you're always able to connect dots. But when you're looking forward, to be able to say, what's going to come up, it's going to be difficult. So work from home, that's what happened is the majority of it, right? So that was a silver lining. And what I said was, you see, when you have customers who are backing out, you also have customers in the US who are going to have work from home. That's remote work. And when you are having customers in the US, that's a different market that you're going to penetrate. So it's called the blue ocean strategy, where you can look at opportunity which is not existing or not being worked on, and then you target that. So we went ahead and planned in terms of getting in, saying, let's look at the market in the US, where we look at work from home or remote opportunities, get our developers to work from India. We charge much higher rates in terms of what it is. So our projection plans went in from $500,000 or even less, right to about close to $2 million USD in terms of revenues that we had projected in way back into 2020. And that energized the whole room. The whole leadership was really excited about it. And we were able to achieve quite a good success during that. And there were challenges to further execution and all of that, which we can discuss later. And creating long-term value over short-term wins. Now, while I had building credibility, so it's the most important aspect is the credibility that has to be built in that brings repeat customers, right? So if you look at it, one such example is while I had my previous venture of IT services, E2, where I had very clearly said that the punchline was simplifying open source, and the value that we had most importance of was credibility. No matter what we do, no matter whether it's extra time that we're going to spend on a customer, extra money that we're going to spend, or the money that we're going to lose, one key thing that each and every individual in the organization, right from the leadership all the way to the office boy, has to execute is build credibility for the organization. Because once you build credibility, everything else follows it. So imagine you build a brand. Now, how many of you all would trust a Nike brand versus any other local brand if you're going in for a, what do you call this, marathon? How many of you would, can you speak up please if you want? Nike or the normal local one? Right? It's because you guys trust it. You guys know that they'll deliver on quality. You guys know that they'll deliver in terms of the product, and it is built for it, right? And that's what Nike's promises as well, right? So we have to build credibility there as founders, saying, no matter what happens, you'll have to have people trust you. When people trust you, you will have everything else fall in place, repeat business coming in. And one such example was Manthan, where we had this unique idea saying, customer was not really happy, saying, he didn't really trust us primarily, saying, you know what man, your resources are not looking impressive on the resume, but I don't know why I should go ahead and take it. So I came up with this idea saying, okay, here's what it is. You take our resources for about 2-week trial, and then that's no charge, nothing. And then if you're happy with them, continue, or else you can send them back to us with no charge, nothing. Right? And then the customer was really happy about it. So, okay, who wouldn't want a freebie, right? So he was able to absorb all those employees that were deployed in. And at times, it's not about your resume that speaks. It's about your execution. So some people cannot really express it on the resume, but they're able to execute well. And we had those specific bunch of employees who were able to execute, but not able to talk in the interviews and clear those rounds and all of that. So it worked really well, and that happened. And that's how most of the businesses went on, right? So if you look at Flipkart, they came up with the first offer saying when online shopping was initially, considered not safe and all that, they came up with this concept saying cash on delivery, right? And everyone said, okay, there's nothing that I'm going to lose. So that got us addicted to further shopping and being comfortable with. And another case study I would like to talk about is Salesforce consulting company that failed but lessons learned. So it's important that in any aspect of your business that you're running in, as a founder, you have to look at failures. You have to assess those failures and learn those lessons in it. Here we had 4 partners. One was responsible for investments, one was responsible for setup and infrastructure, one was responsible for generating sales, and the other one was the executions. Right? But the challenge here came in is everyone is saying not me. You remember the previous slide we said, if not me, who? Right? That's the mindset that every entrepreneur should have. But in this particular example that I'm talking about is everyone was saying, not me. Why should I be the first to do that? So that's where it is something that will help, not help the company. Now the person who had to invest said, I'm not going to be investing. Let's make sure that the person who's setting up and bringing the infrastructure do the first, and the person who was setting up the infrastructure and investments said let the investment person come in first, and the person who was investing was saying that let's the sales be generated. In any business they said let's have a first few paying customers and then we will think of jumping in, and then we'll look at buying an office, and then we'll look at hiring employees. It doesn't work that way. What came first, chicken or egg? Who can answer? Chicken. How did the chicken come without the egg? It's a debate that can go on. So that's what it is, right? So you'll have those situations saying what comes first. You will have to invest first, or you'll have to execute first. You have to bring your customers first. What is it? So you'll have to work out as a founder, take that risk, you decide on something, you get any one aspect in and then you start executing on it. The lessons learned here was, everyone has to have their skin in the game. The person who was doing investments was working full time in a multinational company and he was in a comfort zone, not willing to take that risk, saying, why should I invest? Why should I set up? Right? So they didn't have a skin in the game. So whenever you're starting a venture, you have founders in, everyone should be involved in terms of their time, in terms of their effort, in terms of their funding, in terms of their reputation. Everyone's skin should be there in the game, and that will actually help in terms of making the company successful. Build the RACI framework. RACI framework, how many of you know what is the RACI framework? Great. So quite a few raise of hands, a couple of them. Responsible, accountable, consulted and informed. So you have a plan, you have this whole thing charted about saying who's responsible to do what in terms of the business and work according to the plan. Right? And the third aspect is to focus and dedicated efforts are a must. This way is saying that work smart, not hard. It doesn't really work that way. So you have to work smart as well as hard. There's no excuse for working hard. You can work smart and put in a lot of hard work as well to get the results much faster than what you actually have. And the result was success followed right after that. And further key traits of founders' mindset is ownership mentality. Treats every decision like the future depends on it, right? Bias for action, like I said, executes fast, learns faster, improves on that particular aspect again. Customer obsession solves real problems for real people. Resilience adapts and grows through uncertainty. That's the most important aspect that most of the entrepreneurs have. Irrespective of what the situation is or what the market says, you'll have to have the resilience. Purpose and vision, a clear why that drives every what. Right, so that's the most important thing. So one specific example was ownership mentality was a client wanted to build a ticketing management system, and this was a German client, and then he came in and said, it was a referral, so he looked at me and said, yeah, this is a great company to work with, so I'm okay, and he signed it and he gave us the advance for the project execution and all of that. And while that happened, I assigned the project manager and then had delivery, software delivery guys to work on it. So there was gaps out here. So while the project requirement, what the customer had given us was different versus what the end product that the developers were delivering was different. And we really realized it really late in the game when the customer had seen the first run of the demo. And at that point of time, the customer was really unhappy with it. So if you look at it, what really went wrong here was there was no ownership specifically. There was no process in terms of documenting and getting the signatures from the customer in terms of the SRS and all of that. And this actually caused it. So the project, I assigned it to the project manager. Project manager went in and assigned it to the developers. Nobody owned that particular process. There was no review and checks and balances in this whole process. And the ownership is what caused this huge loss in terms of reputation as well as timelines as well as financial losses. But however, we turned that around and we went ahead and except the time part which we couldn't really get that back, but we went ahead and delivered that project much more in terms of more features and lowering the costs for the customer. And as a matter of fact, we returned majority of the customers' funds that were paid in for that. So thinking like a founder versus an employee, right? So an employee's mindset is going to be saying, what's my task? He comes into the day and then says, not thinking out of the box, saying, today what do I need to do? He goes into the manager or the founder saying, what do I have to do? Whereas the founder thinks, saying, how do I grow? How do I get to 1x to 10x? If I'm making 1 million, how do I get to 10 million? Right? So these are the actions that the founders would think about, and he'll never be in the comfort zone. Whereas an employee would just think of, what tasks has to be assigned. So taking ownerships, getting the projects completed. It's not about saying I've had to design this particular UI and I'm done with it, or I'm just going to be making sure the customer sent that email and I'm done with it. Whereas it's taking the ownership of the complete end-to-end requirement of the customer. Whereas an employee would just take directions, what my actions for the project are, I'm done with that, and that's about it. So that's the difference out there. Embracing risks. So imagine you're walking into this elevator and you have the most important person in the elevator. What is that you would do? How many of you know what an elevator pitch is?
Short introduction, 30-second or 1 minute introduction.
Great. So it's the time that an elevator takes from whichever floor you are to the next floor, and you have the most important person in that elevator. What is that you would want to talk to him about? Or you see that it's your customer, you see that it's your investor, you see that it's your next employee, or whoever it is, right? So what is that few seconds that you have? What is that you're going to talk to them about? Or are you willing to take that risk? So an employee's mindset would be saying, oh man, I know he's important, but let me not risk it right now. Let me not walk into that elevator and he asking me an uncomfortable question. Or if it's your CEO, you're an employee of the organization and you're walking in and the CEO is there. What if he asks me about something which I'm not ready about, right? So those are the risks that an employee would not be willing to take. Whereas a founder would say, no matter what it is, I'll jump in and get that. Few seconds, I'll see what I could do, I'll try to convince him, I'll try to take that risk and pitch an elevator pitch out there. Lessons learns from failures, right? So an entrepreneur or founder's mindset is to do a root cause analysis and figure out, what went wrong. Be very open to feedback, understand from, whether it's your subordinate or your colleague or your counterpart or cross-functional teams, work out and see what the feedback is and learn from those failures. Whereas an employee would not really be willing to take those, do those mistakes. He'll fear those mistakes and just stick to the plan saying, okay, let me just do this 1 to 10 actions, I'm done for the day, go home at 5. Creates impacts. A founder creates impacts in terms of results. It doesn't matter that the founder was there in the office from 6 a.m. in the morning till 4 a.m. in the night, right? Or late, early morning next day. Whereas an employee would say that I've got to tick my tasks. I had to do 10 tasks, done. That's not going to work, right? It's all about saying what are the tasks that I had worked on made the results, right? So there have been days when I was the first person to open the office and I was the last person to even exit the building as well. Wondering what I'm doing. Power of vision. So founders don't chase opportunities, they just go ahead and build those opportunities. If it's not really about identifying a few opportunities and going and chasing those opportunities. Is to build those, creating those opportunities. So we had a raise of hands in terms of how many of you all wanted to be entrepreneurs. So a question is for them. So how many of you all see or have an opportunity with you or a problem that you guys see? Can we have a raise of hands? Okay, 1, 2, 3. And you guys are working on it in terms of saying how you guys would want to solve it? Can we have a mic, so just to hear a few of them, at least 1 or 2 of them at least. Whoever wants to, talk about the opportunity or the problem that they see, or the gaps that they want to solve.
Assalamu alaikum. So essentially what we've discovered is...
Can we have your name please? Sir?
Abdullah. I'm Abdullah. So the D2C brands, right? In India there are around 5,500 D2C brands. Online first. They do not have an offline presence at all, right? So what we are solving for them is we are building a quick commerce marketplace for fashion with AI experiences. And we become their fulfillment partners. So we give them 16-day delivery if, like for example, brands are not based out of Bangalore. What we do is we take their stock and fulfill it for them within 16 minutes.
That's great, great. Round of applause for him in terms of what he's doing. Anybody else wants to talk about it? Any problem that he's solving? Okay, quick question. How many of you all know that there are problems? Don't tell me that you guys don't have any problems or don't see any problems. You want to talk about the problems, whatever, or challenges? Without the mic as well, you want to talk? The person in the back. Okay, so if you've not been thinking or you're being very shy, just think about it. Think about the challenges and problems that are there and how you guys can look at solving it. How you can come up with a problem, a solution to that problem, a product, it can be a service, and how you can do it. Those are the ways how you could create opportunities and not just chase the existing ones. Start with the purpose. Why? Right? So how many of you all know that there are the gap between what the colleges produce as graduates versus what the companies want as employees? There's a huge gap right there, right? So we'll have to come up with a solution on how it can happen. And how much time do I have left with? I think as long as they don't tell me to stop, I'll keep going. Align with the vision and create an impact with it, right? So, and inspire others to see what doesn't yet exist. So when you're creating a product, when you're creating a company, most of the times is, you know what the product is going to be. You know how that solution is going to come up, but others would not really know what it is, right? So this is what really happened when I had envisioned to build a services company way back, I think a decade and a half ago, and build it with a purpose, vision, and convinced others to come up with it, right? So what the possible outcome would be, and further went on to the execution part where I led it to building it and creating multiple employment opportunities. I think about 400 plus students who were employed with us in that venture. It's called E2 Software India. So where we had went in and taken students, trained them in, and the students were those who were, who would come into the office with just 2 pairs of clothes the whole month, right? And who would not be able to figure out a proper place to stay, no proper meals, and the parents are from remote villages and farmer backgrounds and all of that. And today, they're earning about 2.5 million in terms of salaries per year, right? And this is about 400 plus or minus in terms of employees who are people who are positively impacted, and that's what happens when you create opportunities for others and for yourselves. Resilience as a founder, right? So there's going to be a lot of market uncertainty, COVIDs, like we just spoke about the previous challenge right there, the silver lining of what happened during COVID, and expats layoff, and the story of E2 that I spoke about in terms of layoffs and things as such. And funding is a real challenge. When you have bills to pay, everyone's happy to start a business and start a company, hire people. But the biggest challenge is going to be is when you have to pay those bills, when you have to talk to those building owners in terms of when you have to pay the rentals, right? And you have your employees standing on your face and you will have to say how are you going to pay that amount, and managing that stress is really important. And you have to be resilient in terms of those tough situations and create a plan, work out a backup, see how you can work around and get those things accomplished. People, the most important aspect of any organization is people, right? You love them or you lose them. So there's a great book called Love Them or Lose Them. I would suggest you guys to, leaders to read it, in terms of how you can actually treat employees so that they stay with you and retain them and support the growth and recognize the high performers. And it talks about how you can actually do the whole thing of having successful people to build your organization. Like I said, the frontline employees are the most important assets of your organization because they're the ones who will be executing most of your work, and you would want them to be really happy, really energized. You would not want to have employees or a receptionist who's sitting there in your showroom and the customer walks in and he or she does not greet him well, and the customer would just walk out right from that particular place. And you also would have poor performers who you would actually have to turn them into high performance, right? You would have burnouts, there are going to be a lot of late nights, critical deliveries, and there were situations when we had a huge project that came in for Saudi Arabia that we had to deploy about 14 people, and we had just about two or three of them that were at our hand. And we created a team called Warriors team, and then a group of leaders that were involved within the organization. We chalked out a plan saying who does what, and everyone was focused in terms of delivering the results there. And at the end of the day, we were able to successfully go ahead and deploy those 11, 12 people that were required for that particular engagement with Saudi. Mind shifts, right? So failure, whenever there's failure, you take the data in terms of it and then see how you can actually improve and work out and learn the lessons from it. Adaptability is strength. So whatever the challenges come in, whatever the changes are, if you're adaptable, you can change things. Right? And courage is greater than luck. So you don't just hope that things will work out well. Have the courage to do things, right? And you should be able to share and convince people in terms of what your vision is, and people to be able to buy that vision. If it's your employee, if it's your investors. And the greatest capital or asset isn't capital, isn't money, it's the courage that a founder carries in. I just have about a few more minutes, so I'll just rush through things. I'm in the next slide. The growth mindset in action is continuous learning, curiosity over certainty, feedback as fuel, and reinvention and iteration of it, right? So here are some real world examples of how Steve Jobs did it, right? So Steve Jobs didn't know how to build a PC or sell a PC, right? But he learned it, he picked it up in a small garage and went on to build the world's largest, most valuable company. And Elon Musk did not know how a reusable rocket would be built in. He just had a vision to create something which is much better, and he went in and did that. Narayana Murthy, way back in the 1980s or whatever, he came up, he had the perseverance on getting the first system out from customs for not just having a 64 MB instead of a 48 MB that they had actually ordered for. Right? A lot of those challenges, it went on for years. So all these great founders built it with clarity and purpose with a high conviction. The founder's playbook is think big, start small, scale fast, right? Hire smart, build culture early, and stay close to the customer. Now, here's an example that I would also like to talk about is thinking big, right? Identify a problem that is bigger than your capability, visualize the solution and start small, keep it growing. So if you look at it, one of my venture that I want to talk about is freshersoffer.com, where what we do is, the vision is to provide 1 million students a better career opportunities, right? Talking about 1 million, we're talking about it in a year, in 2 years, we're going to start small. We don't know whether it's going to happen. It can happen in a year, but then we're going to start small. Our start is we're adopting to 5 colleges with 100 students in each of those colleges and help them succeed. We're not talking about just engineering grads, we're talking about all streams of graduation. And we're going to scale this. The way we're going to scale this is expand this into multiple colleges across India and take this across the world via the online platforms and MOOC platforms. Hire smart and build the culture early. Have an open door policy when you hire employees. They should be able to walk into the CEO's desk or the directors or the finance persons or the manager's desk and have regular intervals of one-on-ones. with your employees to talk, understand what the pulse of the employees are, and reward and recognize the real performers. And stay close to your customers. Your success is when your customer succeeds. Great. So, role of a founder as a mentor is not just a manager, right? So it's like show them as a manager or a founder, you will have to show your employees, saying where that employee is going to be 5 years down the line. One such example is when I hired way back in 2012, when I had an employee in the sales department for 8,000 rupees. Way back, it was really less. So he was earning more than that, and then I convinced him, saying, I showed him the vision, saying, there will be about 5 or 8 years down the line or 10 years down the line where you will be the head of the organization in sales, as well as earn about 1 lakh. And today in the same organization, that same person stuck on, and he is earning the same amount. So that's a success that was. Promise of something and fulfill your promises. And create a plan on how you will actually be able to mentor them and help them be successful in that aspect. Uplifting others through opportunities. Throughout my entrepreneurial journey, like I said, we had about 400 plus people who became highly paid employees and great careers that they built in. And building businesses with social impact, like Brother Zuhaib mentioned, right? So you had these cases where people come in with charity requests of where they take your medicines and they would go back and sell those medicines. So I've personally seen that as well, where a known connect would come in and he had a medical emergency where his daughter was not well, and then he came up with request for medical aid, and then he went in and took medical aid from one organization which fulfilled his needs. Then he had already applied for 2 or 3 other organizations. But then what happened is, at the end of the day, he comes up to me saying, Saqulain bhai, I want to buy a plot. I was like, man, you were just having a financial problem and now you're saying you're going to buy a plot. Yeah, I had raised funds for my daughter's thing and it was much more. 2-3 lakhs more it is. I'm talking about 10 years ago. And that actually was an opportunity for him to go and buy a plot. I mean, a small plot on the outskirts of the city back 10 years ago, you were able to get that. And that raised a bell, ringed a bell, the problem saying, there are these challenges. I understand not all problems can be resolved, or not all cases that NGOs receive are all frauds or whatever, like what Zuhaib said. There are those exceptions, so we'll have to see how we can do it. And that's where I came up with the concept saying shamaworld.in, and that's my mother's name, Shama. And Shama also means light, so the whole cause is to create a social NGO that will create an impact. And the impact that this organization is trying to make, shamaworld.in, is food for all, and how we're going to do it, I'm going to be talking about it later on. Food for all, free medical care for all, employment for all, and free quality education for all. This is something that's really too big, larger than my life, but that's what you will have to have. You'll have to have big vision and you have to know how to execute it. If anyone's interested in this to see how that is going to be executed or would be willing to be a part of executing that, you can talk to me on it. And on the next slide, founder's legacy. So while you're creating these legacy, social causes and organizations, the true measure of success is not what you build, it's what continues after you. So even nobody knows how long you're going to live, right? So even after your death, you will have to make sure that there are things that will, with positive impacts being created, inspire others to believe in possibility, build organizations that outlast individuals and teams, create those cultures and those trusts and leadership teams and who will do that, create value behind profits. Ultimately, all what we would need is a 3 meal a day, right? You would not be able to have 4 meals or 5 meals a day of the same high quality mutton biryani or whatever it is, right? There's a limit to everything of it. So don't just run behind profits or higher numbers. Create wealth to share that wealth with others and most underprivileged ones. And NGOs aren't that are owned by just a few people, like Zuhaib already mentioned that, and he's working on it is what I understand. And the key takeaways is think like a founder, even if you aren't one. Think like a founder, think like an owner. Lead with purpose, adapt with resilience, and act with ownership. Every movement begins with one committed mind. So let's build that mindset together. And I would like to end with a couple of shots if we have time. or we can take questions right now. Thank you so much. Questions? If there are no questions, that means that you guys understood everything completely or understood nothing at all. Yeah, we have one question there.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Syed Yusuf. So, what is the scope for getting into starting a service-based company as of now in this AI era wherein everything is just shifting onto auto stuff? So, what is the scope of like getting customers or providing the service, and how can we get into like fetch our first customer? So, what is the roadmap for it in this situation?
Yeah, there's never going to be 100% rule over AI immediately. So there's going to be opportunities where you can provide service, and it depends on what service business that you're planning to do. I mean, if you can mention, or you have some
web-based developments or something.
Okay, yeah. So that's a huge shift, but then there'll still be those changes where I was looking at this AI-based web application development. I think it was Elegant or something like that, where I went in and added a prompt, and then I was able to build a complete website with a lot of features and applications in, and then they asked for credit and things as such, right? So that's an opportunity. I mean, where things are working. But then there will always be some part of improvement. The AI will probably be able to do it 90-95% of it. So that's the 5% that's there. You will probably be able to fill that gap in. So there will always be gaps. If you can't find a gap, then you'll have to figure out that do something else or do some other services which will actually help. So you're a founder, so you'll have to figure out what's the silver lining in the cloud, right? So think of it and see how you could do it. Yes, another question.
Hi, I'm Sanya. So my question is, finding ideas is quite easy, but what challenge comes next is finding the clients. I think that was his actual question, and it's the same from my end as well.
Okay, and what business that you're planning in?
Service-based again, mostly digital media and marketing. It includes all websites and all, along with AI automation.
Yeah, so see, that's what it is, right? So when we spoke about challenges, now when you talked about saying, when you look back, say, what happened during COVID times, everyone had the opportunities to, work remotely, and, in IT itself, you can hire resources remotely and execute projects remotely, right? So similarly, you will have to figure out, saying, in digital marketing, what is that you could do right now that will help you in terms of providing it as a service, or you could actually shift your whole business from a service to a product, right? You figure out in terms of what, list out the challenges and opportunities that are there, do a SWOT analysis and figure out what is the solution for it.
Sir, all that is easy, all that will be done. A great project is formed, but how do you get started next is the main starting point for all of us. Like, the main challenge will be, how do we get the first client?
See, there are a lot of these networking platforms, a lot of these difficult way of cold calling customers, a lot of these options of, influencer marketing. You'll have to try all of that. It's a mix of all of that has to happen. And there are a lot of these networking platforms that you'll have to go and be in and see where your customers are and drive them and convince them to buy your products. It's obviously going to be difficult. It's not easy. That's what entrepreneurs and founders are made for, right? Great, thanks.
Thank you.
Okay. We have one question. You have a question, sir?
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum
My
salam.
name is Sulaiman, and my question is, how can collaborations among startups, corporates and communities strengthen innovation, sir?
The question is, how can startups,
Corporates and collaborations strengthen innovations?
well, there's a lot of room for, these innovation that can happen, right? So one such aspect is where, corporates can provide those platforms, tools and expertise, and then startups as well can put in those, lean process implementation and lean strategies to succeed. And it can be for a social cause as well. Something like Shama World, where I was talking about providing free food for all. Right, so I mean, a lot of these corporates and startups are doing this CSR activities already, where they're having planting trees. Now just imagine that you're planting trees which gives shade and oxygen, right? So imagine you could plant trees which will actually give fruits and vegetables. Just one out of the block thing. So there are multiple options in terms of opportunities how corporates and startups can actually work together and work together with NGOs to create a positive social impact as well. I hope that answers the question.
Jazakallah khair.
Thank you so much. Okay, thank you so much guys. It was really nice talking to you guys.
Mr. Syed, who was sharing his experience and understanding what is the founder's mindset. To sum it up, overall, it is the insurgent mission that you have, the ideas, like she said, what next after the ideas everybody have. So how do we take that? What's the mindset that we need to have? And then the obsession, quite natural that you should have that passion, that driving force for what you're doing, to believe in the idea that you want to develop and you want to execute. And most importantly, the owner's mindset. This is very important from any perspective, whether you're running your own show or you're working for somebody else. Without owner's mindset, it is very difficult. You will not be able to run the show. I run a school, I manage a college, there's an NGO that is there under the kitty. If somebody works there as an employee, imagine a teacher who's just walking in, works only like a teacher, wherein she's just coming, looking after the students and then going back. The student will not develop unless you have that owner's mindset. These children are mine. This institution is mine. I am supposed to develop these children. They are mine. It is mine. If this does not come into your mind, trust me, whatever you do, whether it is individually, you as an owner, or you're working for somebody else, it will not bear fruit. It will just be that you are supposed to do 1, 2, 3, 4 and you will do only that 1, 2, 3, 4. You will not give anything extra. That extra is what that matters. In today's times, you are supposed to do a certain task. Yes, good job. But what makes you different, what stands you out from everybody else is what extra that you are doing, and that is what matters. Nothing else more than that extra that you give in everything for that matter. For example, in the Salah, you are offering 5 times Fard Salah, fine. But that Sunan and the Nafil is what gives you that edge on the day of judgment, right? Because that will come if there's any shortcoming in your Fard Salah, that will be, the Sunan and the Nafil will sum that up for you. Similarly, in every other field, this is what we need to learn from the Islamic values as well. For example, you see, we stand in the Salah shoulder to shoulder, knee to knee, that we stand in a very straight row. Awesome, mashallah. When you look, even the haram pictures that are captured, amazing. But at the same time, when you look outside, the slippers that we leave outside the masjid are an amazing view to see. It's all on one, my left slipper is on the other side, the right slipper is on the other side. More than that, the parking that we do, oh, I'm missing my Fard Salah, I'm rushing. I'm parking my bike in between the road, somewhere obstructing the traffic, or I'm creating a problem to somebody else. So what exactly does it mean? Offering that Fard Salah is important, or is it that we create problem to somebody else? The Salah teaches us not to do that. So if that change is not coming within us, then it becomes a bigger challenge. Just now, Shaykh Abdul Qadir Umri, who was just walking away, he told me that there's one more major task to work on, and that is, which is happening in the past 10 days in the locality, in the nearby here. There are few brothers who are dressing up very neatly and all that. They walk up to the couple or people who are going alone or somebody else, showing the knife and then taking things, what is there with them. And these are all youngsters. So he was just questioning, what is the plan? What will you do for these kind of people? Now that's a very challenging thing, and it's happening. I think one of his teachers had a problem, and he had this issue, somebody else also telling him this. So this is becoming quite ardent, wherein everybody, the youngsters, if they are not getting these jobs, if they are not having the right kind of environment, right kind of friends, this is what is going to happen. So these initiatives that we are doing from the organization to get the youth collected, to be together as a team, these are the things. When you are learning something here, what we expect is that you go out and teach them. Earlier the proverb was each one teach one, so we need to change that from our community perspective. It should be each one or each teach 10 or each one or teach more than that, so that we get that change. See, we are responsible, educated, we understand how things work in the society, what is good, what is bad, and there is an implementation to it. So that change has to come from you all, be it from the entrepreneurship perspective, or from the service industry, or from the philanthropist perspective, anything that you can think of, but we are the ones who should get the change in the society. I am 43, another 10-15 years according to the Hadith, 60 plus years, I will not be there. But what remains is with your generation. The way the political situation is heading, the way things are and things that are happening in the society, what is it that we are giving back to the society? This is what you need to always question yourself. The salah that you are doing is for yourself. If I don't offer my fard salah, are you all responsible for that? Definitely not. Neither my wife, nor my mother, neither my children. But I am responsible for that. But for the societal change, it is we are responsible, and we, the youngsters who are educated religiously and with the contemporary education that you have, is what you can get the change to the society, and this is one such.